Hello everyone, today we're working on 2006 Ford Fusion. It's front wheel drive, 4-cylinder, 2.3 liter, and it has a bad front right wheel bearing. Okay, to start removing the wheel bearing, what you're going to do is you're going to take off the cover for the axle nut. So just use a couple of small screwdrivers. Just go ahead and just pry that out of the way. That. Then you're going to get a 32mm socket and a breaker bar so that you can loosen up the axle nut. Just gonna get that nice and loose. There we go. And while the car's still on the ground, go ahead and loosen up your lug nuts just so it's easier. Once you get the wheel off, go ahead and actually turn the wheel to the right so that you can access the caliper bracket and these 15mm bolts a little easier. Use a breaker bar. It'll make it much easier to loosen these up. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and remove the caliper, get that out of the way. We're also going to remove the rotor and get that out of the way. Let me see if I can zoom in here. So I'm going to go ahead and take off this bolt here. It's connected to the caliper here. And we already removed this one here. This bolt. Then this whole piece is just going to come off. Then we're going to go ahead and remove the rotor, and what we're going to do is we're going to take off these two screws here, and the rotor will come off, and I'll show you that in just a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and take off this entire knuckle assembly off the vehicle so that we can get to the bearing. Go ahead and remove that bolt there. Come around, you're going to take the bolt off the tie rod end, loosen that nut up, and then knock it down. We're also going to take off this bolt here, and then we're going to remove this entire assembly. So I'm going to show you that next. So I'm just finishing taking off the bolt for the caliper. Go ahead and remove that, and then that'll just slide right off of the rotor. Like that. One thing you want to keep in mind, you want to make sure you don't pinch the brake line. So I have a couple of cable ties or zip ties that I'm going to use to hang this bracket right off of the spring of the car. So I'm just going to let that hang right there without putting. And that way there's no pressure on the brake line. So that's out of the way. Next thing we're going to do here, we're going to go ahead and take off these little bolts that are holding the rotor to the hub assembly. So to remove these two bolts, I have a T40 tip. I don't have a T40 socket tip, so I'm just using the tip with an adjustable wrench. Let's take them off and just break these loose. These have some rust on them, so I might have to spray them down. No penetrating oil here. There we go. Get it off of there. Alright, once you have your rotor off, put that to the side. You're gonna go ahead and we're gonna go ahead and knock the axle out of the hub assembly. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and get a piece of wood and a hammer, and we're gonna knock it backwards, or you could gently just hit it back. Sometimes they're not stuck, so gently tap it out. Now your axle's out. It's easier if you have the wheel turned like I did here, so that you can kind of just push it out the back. So we'll leave that like that. Now we're gonna go ahead and loosen up the other bolts so we can get this entire assembly out of here. Next thing I'm doing is removing the nut from the tie rod. There's a little cotter pin on here. You can go ahead and straighten that out to remove it, and it'll just come out just like that. Once you removed the cotter pin, go ahead and grab a 17mm socket, and it's a little easier if you have an extension. Go ahead and loosen that up. We're not going to completely take it off all the way, because we have to loosen this lockout nut, and I'm actually going to go ahead and replace this tie rod end while we're going ahead and while we're in here. Alright, so the next step is to get out this lockout nut. So I actually went and got my monkey wrench because I can't find my other wrenches. So I'm gonna go ahead and loosen that up. Okay. Once we have that loosened up, go ahead and you can remove this nut here. Get this out of the way. So just a quick tip, when you're not replacing these, go ahead and leave it so that the top of the nut is flush with the bolt, so that you don't mess up the treads on the bolt. Just like that. Alright, it is completely out now. This one is completely worn out. All the grease has come out of it already. So that's why we're replacing that. One good thing to do when replacing these tie rod ends, obviously when you replace it, you're going to go ahead and get an alignment afterwards, because it's going to need to be aligned. But one thing I like to do is I like to line up lockout nut with where the tie rod end is right now, just like that, just so it's just flush with the tie rod end. And then I'm going to go ahead and just tape off the nut to the tie rod so that it doesn't move, and then I'm going to go ahead and continue with taking it off. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and tape off the nut to the tie rod end so it doesn't move. I'm just going to make it flush with where the tie rod end is right now. Okay. And I'm going to tape it like that. Alright, so with this tie rod end, I'm getting my monkey wrench just so that I can hold the tie rod while I get the tie rod end off. A lot of times these are really tight on here, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Just get that on there real snug. That way it doesn't spin on you. And then you can go ahead and get in here and loosen up tie rod end. There we go. So now that that's loose, now we've already taped it off to where it'll be snug with the nut. But I also like to go ahead and count how many turns it takes to come off. So 1, 17, 18. So 18 turns. So when I put the new one on, I'll know that it'll be 18 turns, and to go ahead and snug it up to where the nut is right now. Next thing I'm doing is removing the sensor from the hub. So sensor on the Fusion here is right here behind it. It's a 10 millimeter. Make sure that you're careful with these sensors. This is I'll go ahead and move it to the side here. It's also for the ABS. After we remove the speed sensor, I'm going to go ahead and remove the upper control arm nut that's on here. It's a 17 millimeter, and I'm actually just going to go ahead and use my breaker bar to loosen this up. Alright, once you have the top nut for the nut for the top control arm off, we're going to go ahead and remove the lower control arm nuts. I have 2 nuts here, and I'm just using my breaker bar again because it's easier. Okay, and there's 2 nuts that are down here. I'm working on taking off the lower ball joints. These were really stuck on there, so I got a ball joint separator, and I kind of put that in there. So it's underneath the ball joint there. So what I'm going to do now is just go ahead and screw on this screw. I put some grease, or you put some grease or some oil on it to help lubricate the thread as you're removing this. So I got the knuckle off, and what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and hit the hub out of the hub assembly. So what we're going to do is we're going to find either like a 32 millimeter socket or I also have a front wheel bearing adapter set, and I'm going to try to find a piece that fits perfectly over the hub. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to hammer it right through and push out the other end. Penetrating fluid on here just to help with getting this hub out of here. Let that go ahead and soak in. I'm going to use a 30mm socket and a hammer. It's starting to go ahead and push out of the other end. Okay, now that we have the old hub off, I'm going to go ahead and butt a new hub, just because I couldn't get half the bearing off. So what I'm going to do is we're going to put the new hub into the knuckle. First we're going to remove the rest of the bearing, and I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that now. This is a new bearing that we're going to be putting in its place. Okay. So next step is to remove the circle clip in here. Just be careful with this, there's a lot of tension in this clip. Once you remove the clip, you can then press out the bearing. It'll come out and you'll flip it over. We'll press the bearing on this side and we'll push it out the other side. Okay, to start removing the bearing, I have a bearing adapter set. And the way it works is have these 3 parts here, 4 parts, whatever it is. And what we're gonna do is this is gonna go over the outside edge here, and this cover is gonna go over it. I'm gonna go ahead, this bolt is gonna go all the way through, so that when it goes all the way through, we can then put this piece against the bearing, and what we'll do is we'll tighten up the bolt and it'll push the bearing out the other end. So the next thing we do is so I have my breaker bar on one end and I have another big wrench on the other end. So we'll just go ahead and start cranking this down. So this is my old bearing. Half of it stayed on the hub and half of it was in there. It had quite a bit of rust, which seized it in there. I had to go and get a press to get this out of there, just because it was so stuck on there.
Sometimes what you can do is you can get it loose with a hammer, and once you get it loose with a hammer, if it's still stuck, you can go ahead and use heat from a torch on the outside of the hub. Try to heat it up so that you can press it out. Basically, then what I did with the press, the way I got it out was after I took the snap ring off on this side, lay the hub down, and then pressed with the press, and I pressed the bearing out of there. Now that we have it all cleaned up, just want to make sure that this area is nice and clean so that the new bearing can just slide in easily, and we're gonna do that next. One quick thing I wanted to mention: depending on what car you have, the bearings could have a magnetic on one side of the bearing. Mine actually doesn't, and a good thing to do, if you don't own your car, you can take like a staple or a paper clip, tiny piece of metal, and you can see if it sticks to, you know, the magnetic side if you have a car that has bearings with magnets on the sides. Those magnets are for the speed sensor. Speed sensor will line up with the magnet side of that bearing in the hub. Okay, so now that I have my knuckle up on the press and have my new bearing, what we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of new motor oil on the bearing, just so that it slides in easier. So you don't have to put a whole lot, just kind of enough to cover the outside of the bearing, and go ahead and put a little bit inside of the hub here. So I'm getting ready to put my bearing in. Have this flat metal piece. What we want to make sure is we press on the entire bearing, especially on the outer race. You don't want to just press on the inner race, because then you'll mess up the bearing and have to get a new one. So when we get close and this metal becomes flush with the knuckle here, what we'll do is, and if you don't have these adapter sets, you can actually use the old bearing, which will press on the outside, on the outer race, and that way you can get it all the way to the bottom. So once you have everything lined up perfectly, you can go ahead and start pressing the bearing slowly. Just make sure you keep an eye on it and that it's going in straight. And once you reach the knuckle, you have to get your adapter so that you can finish pressing it the rest of the way. Just gonna resist that pressure there. So I got an adapter that fits perfectly on the bearing, and what we're gonna do is finish pressing this the rest of the way in, and just make sure it is lined up with that outer race, so that you don't cause damage to the bearing. And that's it. It's all the way in.
And that is your pressed in bearing. It's all the way flush against with the knuckle. Next step we're going to do is we're going to put the snap ring back in place. Now the snap ring is in, we can go ahead and put the hub in here. Alright, now that I have the new hub lined up, I'm going to go ahead and start pressing it in. Just make sure that it is going in straight, and make sure that you oil the outside of the hub so that it slides into the bearing a little easier. I ended up getting a new hub because the old hub, it had half the bearing stuck on there. It didn't want to come off at all, and the new hub was like 40 bucks, so I might as well just put a new hub on there, and we're gonna go ahead and continue pressing this in. And you can notice that this slides in fairly easy. So you're going to leave about 2 millimeters between the hub and the knuckle. So I just finished pressing the hub the rest of the way into the bearing. Make sure that you put something behind the bearing so that doesn't come apart. And then that's it, it's on there. So next thing we got to do is just put it back on the vehicle. You can see the space there. It's about 2 to 3 millimeters. So, and that's ready to go back on the car. So I'll just go ahead and line this up here. If at any point you have any questions or comments, just please let me know below. And also, if you like the video, just please let me know and subscribe. That way I can keep bringing more videos. So what I've done was I put the bottom 2 nuts on the 2 lower ball joints for the knuckle, put the upper nut on the upper ball joint. I put the tie rod back on, did 18 turns clockwise, and it lined up right with the lock nut, and I just snugged that up, put the nut back on for the tie rod for this tie rod end. And then the next thing that we do is we put our speed sensor back in, speed and ABS sensor, and then all we have to do is put the rotor back on, put the 2 screws, and put the caliper and the bracket back on, and tighten them up. Look in your owner's manual for the specific torque for your vehicle, and then put the nut back on, snug it up a little bit so that you can put the tire back on, put it on the ground, and then torque it with the torque wrench, and then you're all set. Please let me know if you liked the video, and that way I can keep posting more videos. Thank you.